So about these recently released Epstein documents, I didn't jump on this immediately because I wanted to take some time so that we could kind of dive into them a little more and figure out what exactly is in it, and not just talk about, oh look, there's Epstein documents out that I have, and I have no idea what they're in other than just what people are tweeting in the last 5 minutes. But now, even though I haven't combed through them personally, I've gone to a lot of folks I trust who are very good at combing through these document dumps, and I think I have a pretty good understanding of what exactly was released. And of course, I mean, the main thing is that this was testimony from Virginia Roberts. She was testifying or giving a statement to her attorneys, I believe. And this was, of course, all pertaining to her time when she was a minor, being held by Epstein and abused in all sorts of ways by him and Ghislaine Maxwell. And in that sense, I don't feel like there's much that's entirely new in this whole document dump. What we have are allegations against people who we already knew were involved with Epstein. The only new name I really saw that I have not seen mentioned, at least once before, was Marvin Minsky. I don't think I had heard him, but I mean, he's not as high profile of a figure as somebody like Bill Clinton or Prince Andrew. Marvin Minsky was an MIT professor. But it's not surprising that he would have someone like Minsky involved with all this, because Epstein was a big patron of the sciences. He liked to have scientists over a lot to his various palaces around the country, and wine and dine them and fund their research. And so it's only natural that at least one of these guys, it would seem, got up and got involved with Epstein, in the rest of what he had to do. Now, what's getting the most headlines is the statement by Virginia Roberts that Bill Clinton had showed up to the island, Little St. James in the Virgin Islands, with two young girls, which makes for a salacious headline, but it's nothing surprising. It's nothing that is inconsistent with what we've heard in the past. We know Bill Clinton is a cretin. We know that he's friends with Epstein, so it's only natural that he's been messing around with kids down there. The biggest takeaway, though, I think from all this is that I think that this is a good reminder to people that the U.S. government knew all along what Epstein was doing, and they had the evidence. They had the ability. They just didn't have the will to go after him. And so that really is the big issue of the Epstein case. That's what people should be up in arms about. It's not just that this powerful billionaire was abusing children. It's also that he was including his friends in on it. But the biggest issue is that he was allowed to do so for so long. And we have to answer the question as to why that is. Is it just that our justice system is so corrupt and nobody wanted to touch him because he was a rich guy and he could bribe people? I don't think that Epstein was, paying off prosecutors and judges, at least not from what I've seen. That's not what we've been hearing over the past few years. Rather, it would seem that Epstein was allowed to get off scot-free, even though the government had so much incriminating evidence against him, and had things like that photo of Virginia Roberts with Prince Andrew's arm around her, with Ghislaine Maxwell in the background, a rather incriminating photo in hindsight. The simplest solution to this conundrum is that Epstein was, of course, intimately tied to our federal government. These documents would seem to suggest that so-called main justice, meaning the branch of the Department of Justice, their offices in Washington D.C., where the Attorney General works, i.e. the highest levels of the Justice Department, was doing their part to squash any prosecution of Epstein and delaying grand juries and the like. And then, of course, we have the infamous deal with Alex Acosta, Trump's labor secretary. And Acosta, of course, famously said to the Trump administration when he was being interviewed for the job that he had to let Epstein off because he was owned by intelligence. And everything that we're seeing coming out now would seem to support that. It would seem that there was no trouble if the FBI wanted to go after Epstein. They could have done it. They had the means. And so given that that Epstein, had not been prosecuted, and given that none of his accomplices were prosecuted, nor any of the other men or women, presumably, that he had around him who were partaking in the, in the rather disgusting and degenerate lifestyle that he provided for them. All those folks, Bill Clinton, Alan Dershowitz, this guy Marvin Minsky, none of them seem to have faced any repercussions. And so the simplest solution here seems to be that Epstein might have been running some kind of MK Ultra 2.0 style of blackmail operation. And of course, I'm far from the first person to say this. This seems to be, what all of this evidence that has slowly trickled out over the years regarding Epstein has been building to. Because if all of this, pedophilia wasn't tied somehow to his role as a friend of the federal government, why would all of this go unnoticed for so long? Because even if Epstein was some kind of CIA agent spying on Wall Street or something, then I would still think if he went out and became a pedophile, they'd go after him for that. I don't think being an intelligence asset, or being owned by intelligence, as Alexander Acosta put it, makes you immune from prosecution for any crime. If an intelligence asset is being allowed to, commit crimes over a number of years, it would seem to indicate to me that that criminal activity is a part of the scope of his role as an intelligence asset or an agent of intelligence. And so just as the CIA, tried to blackmail powerful businessmen in MK Ultra by having them, sleep with prostitutes, perhaps they were running a similar scheme here, but with, underage girls, which is even more scandalous than prostitutes. Perhaps prostitution, has lost its edge over the last 60 years or so, and so it's not good enough to simply use that to blackmail a man. You'd have to do it something much more heinous, like the video of that man, engaging in sexual activity with a minor. And so this document dump, even though it hasn't told us anything that's brand new, in my opinion, it doesn't give us too much new information. I do think that it's very good that it's getting a lot of headlines in the media, or at least in the alternative media. The mainstream media, it still is kind of reticent to touch upon, any of the alternative angles of the Epstein story, just beyond, he was a kid toucher. Okay. They're okay admitting that now, but they don't really want to talk about the network or any of the bigger picture stuff when it comes to Epstein. But perhaps this dump will sort of bring a lot of this, rather fringe information more to the mainstream. More ordinary people will start to realize and put the pieces together of what exactly it was Epstein was doing, and what the full implications are of that operation that he had going down there in the Virgin Islands. Because if a majority of Americans really did, come to appreciate the full ramifications of the Epstein story, well, then that would signal a profound revolution in the way people think about their public officials and about powerful elites. They'll never be able to look at presidents or at famous professors or celebrities or British royalty the same way. They'll always look at them and think, hey, are you part of that pedophile cult too? Are you guys using your private jets to just, fly around minors and evade, any sort of ramifications? Do you all have, weird sexual fetishes? Because everything, really, that is associated with Epstein is offensive to the sensibilities of the average American or the average person in most parts of the world. And so, considering how widespread his influence was within elite circles, I think it's very important that Americans come to appreciate, just what kind of a person Epstein was. and just how much he has in common with many other powerful people. So with that said, if you gain anything of value out of this video, I'd appreciate you clicking that like button and sharing this video. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe, because I do upload every day and I'd hate to have you miss one. So I'll see you folks back here tomorrow.